For progress to happen, there's some changes that once again need to be made. For now, we're just going to use this stand-in 650, but the 800 is basically built in the same shape, and the way an Edelbrock is, there's no bowl on the back because there's saddle bowls on both sides. So there's all this room on the back, and what I've decided to do is also I'm going to treat the 800 like a double pumper, and I'm going to fit this side and that side. And to not make drastic changes to my fuel pressure regulator system, I now need to have a block that will come off of here to hold the fuel pressure regulator, and then it will spider off on both sides. If I had access to a CNC machine, I'd make it a little more complicated than this. But this time around, I think I'm going to do away with the single plate underneath, and I'm just going to put a plate on top of these two, and that's why I've come over here and I've done this. This is the bracket that actually holds the regulator, little cheap bracket, and this of course is a gasket for a carburetor. Well, if you take Mr. Gasket here, you can literally put them on this way if you need to, well, if you wanted to. So we've taken that pattern and we've transferred it to our sheet of aluminum here, and then we took our bracket pattern and also transferred it to this sheet of aluminum, and we came out with something like that. Looks pretty simple to cut out with our disc, being that we don't have, like I said, a way of cutting it or plasma cutting it or anything else. But I believe that'll turn out pretty good if I can get it anywhere close to that shape. This time I'm just going to take this pattern, take my magic marker and outline it. Now I'm going to cut that one out. After about 15 minutes here, we got it exactly what we wanted. Well, we should go it that way so you can see. Whole hole. It's going to sit on the back of the carburetor, like so. Hold the fuel pressure regulator, hose, hose. It's going to be interesting, but got another one to do here. So before it gets dark, I would like to get it done. Okay, just doing a little test fitting here. Took our old regulator out, at least we got some use for it. And we actually have it attached to the plate here, make sure it bolted up properly. And of course we're just using pen tops to hold the actual carburetor bolts in place. And everything seems to fit right. It does look a little tight at the top. Now this of course won't be there on this one, it's on the front over here. And we figure that it's actually sitting on the regulator just a tiny bit, so, but where it's at right now is perfectly level. And then of course we have our air cleaner, which comes up to about here, so that may be a perfect fit. And as I said before, with an Edelbrock, like this side is here on the new ones, you can actually put one in this side here. It's already threaded and ready to go. It just has a plug in it. So we'll be able to dual feed, which is awesome. Okay, after a little bit of work here, we have our pieces all kind of sanded up real nice, so they're got a nice little etch on them, and paint will be able to stick to them real nice. I'm really starting to think they didn't turn out too bad for a guy in the grass. Well, they're black, but it's so late that we'll have to be back. Isn't the magic of video amazing? Just a second ago, it was late, getting dark, and here it is, sunny and beautiful morning. Even though it is a beautiful morning, the 24 is officially down. It's off the menu. We're not even going to touch it until our plans are in progress, which there already are. And of course we have all these other sweet rides to go out and play with. But in reality, we're not going anywhere. And it's due to some sad news over the past couple days. A couple crabbers were out, I guess, doing a little partying also. And we got hit with that hellracious storm, which we'll put right here.
I'm wet.
Man, that's a big hail. And they have not found them. Meaning that they did find a gas tank and some beer cans. Yeah, that doesn't really bode well. And PFD. But they haven't found them. And there's probably a 95% chance that if I went down to the boat ramp and scanned, their bodies would be within that scan of my eyesight. They just haven't found them yet, which is pretty amazing in this day and age. It was a hell of a racious, I guess what weekend you want to put it. 5 people. 5. I mean, in one weekend. That's just amazing. 2 of them were kayakers. I mean, it's just, wow. You guys really need to be safe out there. Put your PFDs on, man. If you don't like the big ones, do what I did. I went down to whatever it was, an outdoor or whatever, and got myself one of them self-inflatable ones. You know, I wouldn't wear it. I just wouldn't wear it. Yeah, they were uncomfortable and miserable, and we learned to swim before we were allowed in a boat, you know, that kind of thing. But yes, you can be knocked unconscious, and shit can happen, and it can go down real fast. Trust me, it's happened to me. I didn't get thrown out, but I got thrown from one gunnel to the other, and that was scary enough by itself. And yeah, just be a little safe. I mean, there's, like I tell my kids all the time, there's risk and reward. The stuff I do looks like I'm doing stuff that's crazy, but the reality is I've done everything possible to make myself comfortable with the fact that I'm able to do something crazy and not get killed in the process or hurt anybody else in the process. So, always risk reward. You know, I would never get on the back of a bike without a helmet with a drunk driver. You know, just because I want to ride around the block on somebody's motorcycle. Now, is there reasons to bet the farm? Oh hell yeah, there is. But again, just think about that. I mean, there's risk and reward, and that's just. Put them PDFs on, man. We don't need anybody out here floating around. And I don't mean to be rude about it neither, but it's the truth. There's literally people floating around out here, and really puts things in perspective. When we last left off, Timmy was ready to fall into a well. Oh, wait a second, wrong show. When we last left off, we did a couple coats on our fuel pressure regulator mounting plates, and the flat black, of course. because flat black and Rust-Oleum and aluminum are just two things that like to stay together for some reason. And we're going to go ahead and hit them with a little gloss this time around to put a final coat on them. And this way, they'll be ready to go when the new toys arrive. For all our Volvo fans out there, which I am one of them, it's amazing on how nice these drives really are. And what simple, tiny flaws that give them such a bad reputation. I mean, they are built like tanks. You can sculpt the case down a little bit. I mean, this is very comparable to a Merc Cruiser O. I mean, I have one right here on that Donzi. I mean, it's actually a smaller profile case and everything. And that's the only part that actually is in the water, because the rest of it's out. You know, so it doesn't matter how big this section is up here. I mean, it could be the whole back side of the boat. It's only this part that's actually running in the water. But this is the dreaded pawl lock issue that so many Volvo owners have, and I am one of them. And the worst part about it is I actually have a Volvo 280T, which these boxes are just disguises for a hydraulic ram. And it actually connects to what most Volvo Penta owners would know as the pin, their trim pin, Volvo Penta owners, that is. Well, in our case, the 280T actually lifts the bar. So that's why you can actually use a 270 in anything you want with them. And if it fits a Volvo, as long as it's got the standard fork on it, these things can bolt right up to these 280Ts. But the issue at hand is, for some reason, the lock is not grabbing. And as I said, in our case, we don't even need it, so that's being an even bigger pain in the ass. But we did notice that we have some smegma there on our bar. We just banged the camera too for fun. We did check our paw, and that's something people need to look at. It's usually this spring right here, this little guy up here, that's doing something funky. Ours is a year old, so we're a little concerned more about the teeth actually being teeth, which they actually kind of look pretty good. But and these are just things you need to look for. You need to make sure your shaft here is not binding anywhere when it pushes down. As you can see, it pushes down from the plunger that's in the boat, the lift plunger. So in our case, I really think it has to do with a little bit of schmegma, and we're going to go ahead and clean up the teeth a little bit too while we're at it, and maybe throw some lube in there somewhere. Just not sure how it would go. I mean, this is our feeds this joint here and this pivot joint, so it doesn't do anything about the lock. And all my sprayable greases would probably just turn to goo and salt water, so I'm not really sure what I'm going to do for lube. Like I said, though, the first thing to do is to make sure there's no growth or something that may be causing the two to actually disengage from each other. And like I said, in our case, we have some paint overspray and such on here that we're going to go ahead and use a wire wheel. It's a little guy. Most of it's been turned around backwards anyway, which is perfect for us because it'll make it easy to get up underneath it here and in the backside, which is where the actual paw makes contact. So that's the place you want to be the cleanest. So. Alright, after wire brushing the shaft there, I'm going to take my Dremel here and I am going to go in these teeth, and I want to do the backside hard and then come out like a hook, out light at the end, and then just kind of clean them up a little bit. I really don't even want to do much of anything, to be honest. And the next thing we're going to do is take a little bit of this marine grease here. I'll put it on some spots. It seems to want to make contact with one another. Right there. Not on the paw teeth. That would totally defeat what we just did. But there is some points that do move, even if they only move a tiny bit, that without lubrication can be hang-up spots. So we're going to put some. Also, when you're up on a stand like this and your outdrive's gone, don't get underneath of this thing. It'll come down and cut your head off like a guillotine. And like we said, we didn't want anything on the paw, even though we got it on the paw. So we're going to take a little Resolve and make sure that stuff's completely gone. After cleaning off the pole, the trim rod, whatever you want to call it. We don't want to get a whole bunch more schmegma all over the place and start it all over again. So we'll get our paw cleaned up. I guess they're actually claws. If this is a paw, then that's its claws. But any way around it, we don't want any grease on them. Last but not least, there's the push rod itself. The top of it is pushed in by the tilt actuator. It pushes down to disengage the paw to lift the drive. And if it's got a bolt on the end of there, which it has to be adjusted properly, because if you have too much on it, it won't allow, the bolt will stop it from going up any further than what it is. So the bolt on it actually acts as a stop, stopping the paw from going up too far. So if one of your issues is the paw actually only goes like, say, like this much and it's not totally engaging, that means that bolt needs to be turned counterclockwise to allow the paw to go up, and clockwise to make the paw, if your paw is like got a whole lot of slack in it and your tilt actuator is not engaging the rod, then you need to go clockwise and actually put more of that nub up through the fork. This is kind of depressing. They're out there looking right now. The wrench that would do that one's a 10mm. Just keep in mind that all these wrenches aren't monogrammed for me and the wife. They're actually millimeters, that foreign Swedish stuff. It's really easy to grab a standard set and, oh yeah, come close, and you'll find you'll ring off so much stuff on one of these drives, it's unreal. Get yourself a set of metrics if you're going to do anything with them. I think we got it. If you like this video, let us know by hitting that button down there. I don't know. It's always the other one that I ever point to. And if you could, we're on a subscriber push. We'd really like to hit 400 before the year is out, and we would appreciate if you would hit that button. You can ignore us, but it means a lot to us. For progress to be made, there's some changes that have to be made. Let's do that again. For progress to happen, there's a couple changes, once again, that have to happen. Undo it again. This time, I'm just going to take the pattern. Yeah, let's do that again. Isn't the magic of video amazing? Just a second ago, it was dark, late. Now let's do that again. So, let's cut that so out. Okay, our Volvo fans are... Okay, our people... No. And ready for some paint. Let's try that again, so we don't sound like a robot. These boxes, they're just disguises for 2 hydraulic rams in here. Or actually one with 2 lines on it, I'm sorry. Let's do that again. And it pushes down and to disengage the paw to lift the motor. For now, we're just going to use our 650 right here. Nah. What the hell is that thing called?